I think it's that, I've worked through something that's helped me have better perspective. It doesn't make it go away. So I appreciate that you brought that up for sure. I want to go off a little bit here on the podcast and ask you a question. It might take us a little bit off track, but I've got to ask you this. So my question is, given how much is in your book, and like I said, the craziness, amazing, stories that you have in your book of your lifeline, are there stories that you didn't put in your book that you might mention? And it's not that they're not in your book because of editing. Let's say that that maybe some other way that they didn't make your book.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of things, and look, I without ruining the story, what I made sure is in there are the impactful pieces that move the story forward. The tragedy, the feelings of all of that, I hate using this word, but some of the exciting moments when I was on the other side of the law, which will put things in perspective. But the part that the pieces that didn't make it in there, just because there was already so much packed into a small book, was the relationships that I developed, the friendships and the brotherhood that got me through the darkest times of my life. And I literally just had a conversation yesterday with one of the last, well, I'll call him a cellie, but the last cellies that I had when I was in Miami for the 3-year stint that I did there. And I love this guy, and I will love this guy for life. And nobody will ever have the kind of relationship that he and I had with me, because we were in an environment and a time in our lives where we needed somebody to understand us. We needed somebody to be a sounding board that got what we were going through. And there was only one person on the planet, excuse me, at that time, and it was this person. And those relationships didn't make the book, and I wish they could. And I tell you what, I may go back and do a chicken soup for the convict soul or something like that someday. And we'll have all these great stories, because what I want people to understand more than anything is, we all make mistakes, right? But good people, great people, phenomenal, intelligent, amazing, inspirational people screw up and get addicted to drugs. They screw up and they go to prison. And it doesn't mean that they don't have the same amount of worth. And I want people to see that. Now, bad people go to prison. I want to make sure my daughters always get that, right? There are bad people that need to be locked up, but not all of us. And that's an important part of it all. And I wish I could have fit that into the book more.
Thank you for sharing that. That was a question that's been on my mind. But I love that. Where is that chicken soup for the convict soul? We'd have to get a benefactor to buy them all and then distribute them in the prisons. But it could be done. I love that. And actually, I did want to ask you: Do you believe after Patchwork Junkie is released? I think release date is August 7th. Once that book's released, do you have another book on deck? What's to come from you, since you are an incredible writer?
Oh my God, I love hearing that. I'm going to rewind that a bunch of times. I'm an incredible writer. Yes, unequivocally. I will tell you, first of all, the author's journey inside me is something that's a whole nother podcast and another conversation, but I never knew or suspected that I could write. And, based on some of the reactions of the people that have read the book, I have a little bit of talent, and I think that's fantastic. But what I have more than anything is this burning desire to tell stories. And yes, I have another book in me. Yes, I have a book that's on deck, but I have many, many others. I have some fictional ideas. I have some inspirational books. I have some self-help books that I think can be very, very different and impactful. Because, my God, what the world needs now is another self-help book, right? But I think I can do something different. The one that's on deck, so this story, Patchwork Junkie, is the true story of my journey from jumping into drugs to redeeming myself, figuring all this out, and walking out of prison. Book number 2 is the struggle from walking out of prison at the age of 35 with no college degree, no network, scared to death, institutionalized, and going from a $10 an hour employee to a decade later being a vice president inside a $2 billion publicly traded company. That's a whole nother book. And I've got most of it written. So I'm anxious to get, the right people's hands on that and get that book out.
I love it. I love it. And actually, I thought that we would have our podcast be a little bit different in the order than a marketing blurb, if you want to call it that, or a typical interview, where I wanted to share at the end of the podcast more of the author's bio. So I want to actually talk about that now, as you were just saying. And so your bio, is Kyle Dean Houston's a speaker, author, and coach who's committed to bringing hope in the world. After walking out of prison at age 35 with no college degree, no network, and never having seen an email, he built a highly successful career as a sales executive in San Francisco, one of my favorite cities. In less than a decade, he went from earning $10 an hour to working as a vice president inside a $2 billion publicly traded company. So you just talked about that as far as, and I didn't read the whole thing, but what it still amazes me that, when you come out of prison, how much has changed. I mean, due to technology. And as we all know, these days, 90 days can turn some piece of technology upside down. I mean, it's so crazy how fast things move and change in tech. But I love that. And I think what I love most about what you just said and reading in your bio is that you do want to inspire and bring hope. And, when people ask you, what do you want people to gain after they finish that last page, and just like with jaw open going, are you kidding me? I can't believe what I just read. Because that's the impression I had when I read your book months and months ago. What is that, the main, what is your main hope for the readers when they finish the last page of your book?
Excuse me. So my hope for the reader, more than anything, and I mentioned this a little bit before, but this is the number one thing, is that everybody gets understanding. So the book is not just about me. It's not just about drug addiction. It's not just about being locked up. There was a tumultuous relationship with my stepfather. There were, the toxic masculinity, borderline abuse. There was all sorts of things that went on there. And certainly if he was a jerk to me, I returned the favor to everybody around me. And I want people to see, again, that good people make mistakes, that not everything that happens is about us. And there is a way to understand. There is a way to forgive. There is a way to love everybody and understand them. And I want, when somebody closes the book, nothing would make me happier than if they said, wow, that could have been me, right? Because that starts the conversation, even if it's only in their mind. I want people to say, hey, Kyle's not that bad of a guy. I could have made that same mistake, right? And lived through vicariously, thank God, through my story. And that's what I want people to get from the book.
Oh my goodness. So I wish now that the title was, wow, that could have been me, instead of Patchwork Junkie.
It doesn't have the ring.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to figure out how we can hide that somewhere in there. So Kyle Dean Houston, I just appreciate this time with you and you sharing insights with your book, Patchwork Junkie, soon to be released. And, more than that, I appreciate your vulnerability, not just in the book, but also in this interview to, share and to discuss, what no one knows. So we thank you for being our guest. And we want to just let everyone know if you'd like to pre-order a copy. Again, it's also your book, Patchwork Junkies, already hit some new release titles on Amazon. It's sure to be a bestseller, and we hope to encourage everyone to purchase it, to download it. Ebook, audio, print, however, just read the story. It's crazy great. And we thank our audience for listening to the podcast weekly from Now Publishing called What No One Knows. So we appreciate the listenership and hope to bring you one story and one author after another each week. Thank you for joining What No One Knows.